It is possible to do this in a laboratory, rigorously measured. In billionths of a second. What did the closing do? It went back in time and passed through again, it hadn't reached the wall yet. So, it comes back and passes through as a little ball and you are satisfied. These are all physics laboratory experiments. This is how the entire universe works, this whole electronic issue. It is on top of this that we have the mathematical calculations that allow us to build all this paraphernalia. This is the technological part. Now, what does this mean? That is the question. What does it mean? It passed, we closed, and it passes through as a particle. What does this mean? That we, the observers, the physicist who is doing the experiment, are the ones who choose how the electron behaves. This was called wave function collapse by Schrödinger, the physicist who created this formula and allowed all this here. In other words, we choose the reality that we want. Why did we choose car X? Because we collapsed the wave function of the car. If the collapse of the wave function of both is complementary, you choose one thing and the other chooses another, does that work for both? Does it complement? Does it add to? Does it add to both? It's all good. Since we collapse all the time, everything is dynamic, right? You keep changing, and soon you are no longer the same person, for sure, who started the relationship. This may start well, but it can start to decline. So, during the process this has to be evaluated, adjusted, discussed. There is all the biochemistry involved. It is difficult to measure the wave and realize that the direction is going way off. But, with biochemistry it is easy, because biochemistry is easily perceived, you are not seeing the wave of the chair, but you are seeing the chair. In biochemistry you see the particle, the neurotransmitters, and the hormones. The feeling is nothing more than a chemical formula. Do you remember DNA? Dopamine, serotonin, endorphin, norepinephrine, testosterone, estrogen, oxytocin, stimulus and response. Every time there is a stimulus, it produces some substance. It will produce 17% of one thing, 15% of another, 8% of another, 3% of another. It is literally a cake formula. Like any cake, it needs approximately 40 minutes in the oven. Mix the milk, flour, yeast and put it in the oven. 40 minutes. There is no point in taking it out after 35 minutes because there is no cake, it will be a paste. If it goes on for 80 minutes, it will not be either, it will burn. There is an exact time for that formula to work. In the case of our biochemistry, it is the same situation. You created the substances, you put in the stimulus, and it starts to be manufactured, joining the atoms and molecules, and it starts to manufacture the neurotransmitters and hormones. Everything is changing, all this biochemical rate in your body is changing. It takes time to form the molecules. There is no point in trying to do this in 5 minutes, 15 minutes, in relationships. Forget it immediately. There is no atomic time in chemistry to form the neurotransmitters, to form this formula, to form the feeling. The feeling is pure biochemistry. Of course, it can be analyzed from all other angles as well, but it is pure biochemistry. This, in due time, generates this formula, it generated a feeling. As long as 18% of this, 13%, 5%, 8% is maintained, the feeling exists. Over time, it can take a millennium, millions of years, infinity. If the formula is maintained. If for some reason, hypothetically, dopamine levels drop from 18% to 17.9% and serotonin levels from 15.8% to 15.7%, and so on, and you raise one and raise the other, what starts to happen? The cake starts to not have the same shape or texture. In terms of sensation, of emotion, you start to feel a difference in feeling. Poetically, it is said that you should not take that little plant and crush it, slap the plant, because it will kill the plant. The ideal is to add fertilizer, water, wind, sun, and the plant will remain, stay strong. Do you understand? If you change the biochemistry, if you change this formula, it will disappear. The wave has already gone into space, so to speak, but the wave is difficult to see. Yin and Yang is already doing this, but it is difficult. Looking at the biochemical side, which is mathematical, you, in yourself, also do not look at the other, you feel. How do you feel? You feel what the other person does, and by the other person's reaction you know the level of this magic formula, generating the feeling. If you mess with it, you feel it in yourself, or you feel it in the other person. Correct the course as quickly as possible, the 18% of dopamine returns, goes up, and everything adjusts again. How is this whole biochemical formula created and uncreated? Stimulus and response. If you say good, positive, constructive, happy things, these are archetypes, you elevate, produce dopamine, serotonin, endorphins and everything else, these are frequencies too. You form the formula, you have a feeling. Everything is fine. Now, you make a harsh criticism. You made a harsh criticism and the other person's dopamine dropped to 15%, in relation to whom? In relation to you. Do you understand the dynamics? It's called neuroassociation. Everything is neuroassociation. Everything you see and everything that happens to you is neuroassociation with you and the object there, something you are seeing. Your brain creates a neuroassociation. When you do good for someone, it produces dopamine and associates the production of this dopamine with me. I am the agent that creates dopamine in it. It was what I did for it that created dopamine. It became strong, happy and powerful. Why? Because I did something good for it. It is neuroassociated, there is no escape. If I criticize it, do something bad, what happens? A neuroassociation too, it loses dopamine due to criticism, demands, anything unpleasant. Does it decrease in relation to whom? Me. So, the chocolate cake starts to become misshapen, slowly and gradually. Because this happens day after day, with every conversation, every gesture, every contact second after second, the formula is in progress. It is the same as those indicators that exist in hospitals. On the devices, there are tables, graphs, and everything is changing. If you treat yourself well, everything is okay, it's at the right point, if not. Understanding this, didn't it become easier to have relationships? It's about understanding, this is a science, this is not Cupid with an arrow who looks and says, that's poetic license. Everything in any interrelationship has a physics, which has a chemistry, which has a biochemistry. It's a system within a system. But in the case of relationships, it's something easy for you to understand. All of this has already been measured in the laboratory, analyzed, etc. Richard Feynman, the physicist, said the following: the fact that I understand what the atoms of a rose are like does not prevent me from appreciating the flower as a rose. Ah, but if I understand all this biochemistry of relationships, will it lose its romanticism? No, on the contrary, this way you are able to increase it even more, because in the same way that you create in the other, you create in yourself. You are able to manage in yourself the amount of dopamine, endorphin, serotonin, in relation to that person, to any person. It is a personal choice, remember. The collapse of the wave function, observer, we choose how much dopamine we want to have in relation to a person, and serotonin and everything else. It is our intention that collapses the wave function of the dopamine molecule. So, it is not something random, by chance. Of course there needs to be knowledge, otherwise you can end up in a situation where the person loves me, but I do not love them. Tragedy, suicide, misfortune, that is what happens, a lot. Because of this, there is no knowledge of this biochemistry. If you know this, you can manage this entire situation. Knowledge is power. Everything is power. When the observer collapses, I'm going to state the obvious, I hope everyone agrees, he only collapses into love, happiness, joy, prosperity, growth, evolution, pleasure, etc., all on the good side, all on the side of good. We can classify all of this, it's a little word, everything that is love and its consequences, we call good. And everything that is not love, we can classify with the name evil. These are just names, but the fact is that it is more than proven, by our own experience, that the universe works towards the side of good, growth, evolution. You see a horse being born, it grows. A little plant, it grows. Everything grows. Everything evolves. If you receive love, you feel good. If you get slapped, you feel bad, it has affected your central nervous system. Therefore, it will only work on one side. But two people decided to go against this general organization of things, and that is not good. Why? If things go like this, the love coefficient of the universe is unbalanced, let's say, because there was love, now there is no more. It affects the physics of the thing, it needs to find a point of balance again. Can you imagine if this were to happen? It would exponentially increase this situation. A couple no longer gets along, but decides to push things along. Then 2,000, 5,000, 1 million, 500 million. On the planet, we can only reach, roughly speaking, 3 billion. Imagine 3 billion beings who no longer get along, who decided to stay together, by force, because of a house, car, apartment, boat, yacht, plane, these things. How does it happen? How does it happen with the entire energy of the planet? Have you ever imagined? Because the polarity of matter that love creates has stopped, and it has started to create antimatter. Every time there is an argument, when there is a lack of love, antimatter is created. Did you realize that the balance has been broken? It doesn't need to reach 3 billion. It's serious, after a certain number the energy balance of the planet is broken. Have you ever imagined the entire planet having a huge load of antimatter on it? What happens? Let's talk about geology. What happens to earthquakes, tidal waves, tsunamis, volcanoes? All of these are geological effects of a counterpart wave, energy. Do you understand? In the same way that you somatize, you think badly and you develop cancer. If you have a lot of hate and resentment, you will develop cancer. Do you think that the planet can be completely filled with antimatter without generating some 8.8 earthquakes and some volcanoes? Because it's the way he has of releasing energy to find a point of balance again, in the same way that we have to have a catharsis or we'll leave, right? If the person hates, and hates, doesn't go to therapy, doesn't do catharsis, doesn't cleanse it, no problem, but after a little time he leaves that dimension and that's it. I mean, the energy of that dimension is balanced anyway, one way or another. So, in human terms, two people can push this to a certain point, but inevitably, they start having money problems, affecting work, business, everything. Only love builds. Only positive energy that adds, that increases, that evolves. When you do that here, there's no more room. If there's no more room, it's a monopoly and it's going to be very lame. But monopoly cannot exist in the universe, protons moving alone, electrons too. It doesn't work that way, it needs to form a field. If you do it that way, the world will be full of people, you'll be full of yangs and yins. There are 7 billion, remember? Energy, opposite poles, yin-yang attract each other, inevitably. So, sooner or later this yin will come face to face, along the paths of life, with a yang, which will complement it in some way, and this yang will find a yin along the way too. Either one or the other, or both, whether you like it or not. It's physics, there's no way around it. You can pass a magnet over the table and the paper clips will jump there. Now, if it's not a magnet, if there's no field, they won't even move. So, magnetic attraction, the name itself says it all, magnetic attraction, exists inevitably, it's part of the ultimate reality of the universe. So, every yang is trying to attract a yin and every yin is trying to attract a yang. If it forms a field, it practically stops. If it is complementary, if everything is fine and no one is messing with the plant, it doesn't break the formula. It doesn't break the wave, the field is working, it lasts forever. But if it starts to break? Is everything interconnected? Is everything quantumly entangled? If everything is entangled, what does it mean? That all the people on planet Earth are entangled. Let's just talk about the planet. Everyone is entangled because everyone came from the same ball of energy that created the atoms and the universe and so on. If everyone is entangled, then there is a general attraction of everyone to everyone. The peculiarities, the little things, the frequency details will vary. You are more attracted to one person and less to another due to the frequency that the person is choosing to experience. The person chooses, through their feelings and thoughts. They choose whether to attract frequency X or Y, but in global terms, everyone is attracted to everyone. This means that the magnetic attraction is working, there is no way to avoid it. You attract all the time. But let's suppose that at a certain moment, given the circumstances, a moment in time, your yin is in China, the ideal yin, let's say, people will say that it is a soul mate, the yin that is at the ideal frequency at the moment is there in China. What will happen? There is a magnetic attraction. What did Yang give it the name of? Synchronicity. The person, whoever it is, leaves China, goes to Europe, joins a company that does business, and sends him to Sao Paulo, to check something, to take a course, several possibilities, all open. He is walking on Paulista Avenue, on a Sunday, and you bump into him, or you are at the mall, having coffee and you bump into the person. It is complementary. Don't worry, it will be brought, from the United States, Argentina, China. No problem, you can choose. There are 7 billion, there will be a complementarity anyway, because it is magnetic. And there is not just one, do you agree? That will be in a polarity that gives field, there is not just one person, that would be a scarcity of resources. There are infinite possibilities in the universe, energy appears non-stop. Have you ever heard of gamma-ray bursts? Gamma rays are something that, in a matter of 3 or 4 seconds, energy enters the universe equivalent to 1,000,000 galaxies. The energy that 1,000,000 galaxies have, imagine, we are in one of them, which has 200 billion stars. Take 1,000,000 of these and add up the energy. There was an explosion a few years ago that they detected by chance, only in this case, in 3 or 4 seconds, 1,000,000 galaxies entered the universe with energy. So, what people say about the Big Bang is not exactly like that. There was a Big Bang, it's not like that. You can do a Big Bang whenever you want, remember. You need to have an observer who collapses everything. He didn't let matter and antimatter cancel each other out, right? Well, since there is a general balance in the universe, it needs to be kept balanced. From time to time you inject a little bit here and a little bit there, so that the ball stays straight. Does energy enter or not? That law that says, the total energy of the universe is conserved and never changes, is not true. Every time a gamma-ray burst occurs, an immeasurable amount of energy is injected, not to mention the virtual particles that appear in our quantum mechanics universe. Quantum mechanics is spectacular because it is full of these new things. A particle leaves the quantum vacuum, emerges in our atomic universe, stays here for a short while and disappears again. How is this total energy maintained all the time? There is no such thing. Virtual particles, don't be fooled by the name virtual. When they enter this universe, they are real particles, they interact, transport energy, disappear, enter, this is all the time, do you understand? The fabric of space-time is torn and sewn all the time. Because nothing is solid. Everything is a wave, so the wave fluctuates all the time. This entire construction of protons, neutrons, quarks, all of this is frequency that decreases. It is frozen energy. In practice there is only one wave down there and this wave fluctuates all the time. We are levels of organization of this. Another thing is quantum tunneling. The energy that comes from the socket, from the wall, you put the two pins in, the electron comes and gets there, anything that is on the pins prevents the electron from passing to the pin of your blender. How does energy pass? How do you turn on the blender? And does it always work? It is the so-called quantum leap, it disappears from here and reappears on its pin, it is called quantum tunneling. A quantity of energy is lent to it from the quantum vacuum, to this electron, in possession of this energy it becomes very energized, very strong, it breaks the barrier it has, which can be any atomic dirt, and passes to the pin, with the loan of energy that the quantum vacuum gave it. So, energy also entered so that it could enter the pin of your blender. Is this how the universe is? Have you ever heard of quantum tunneling microscopy? Well, the microscope uses tunneling to scan atoms and shows individual atoms, with waves. The atom and the waves coming out of it. We already have a picture of this. If anyone doubted that the wave-like part of matter exists, they no longer need to doubt it. Now they can see it. There is a picture of this microscope in the atom. Maslow was a great psychologist who lived in the 20th century. He defined a scale with 5 steps of human needs. All advertising and marketing are based on these 5 steps. And everything they sell must also use this, because otherwise it won't sell. The whole society is structured on these 5 needs. First step, hunger. Until this need is resolved, the person will not move from this stage, this step. None of the steps can be crossed until that is resolved in the person. Until you have food, you will not think about anything else in life. Anyone who has ever been hungry knows what I'm talking about, but anyone who hasn't has no idea. You can try it, go 2 days without eating, let your blood sugar levels drop, and you'll get an idea of what it's like. You don't worry about anything else, just a plate of food. So, isn't it easy to keep many people still, stagnant in life? Immobile, controlled, if they don't have food? Because they won't jump to the next step. We already have more than 1 billion people in this situation. There are more than 1 billion who earn $1 or so a day, so these people don't eat, don't think, don't do anything, they're just there. But someone has to work, so we have the middle class, which eats. There's a little food. They already have food, so they jump to the second step, preservation of the species. The third step is power. The fourth step, self-knowledge, and the fifth, spirituality. The second step, if this isn't resolved, they won't get past the second step. Just like the people on the first level, who also don't leave. What's on the second level? The preservation of the species, which is relationships, sex. So, until this is resolved, it remains stagnant. We basically have the entire middle class of the entire planet stuck on the second level. Practically no one cares about power. Practically no one. If you count the people in power, all over the world, it comes to a few thousand, right? There are approximately 600 people in Congress, each legislative chamber plus 40, 50 or 80, plus the city councilors. Add all of that up, how much does it come to? A few thousand. Multiply this result by 200 countries. That's a total of 100,000 people, 200,000 people, 300,000 people. 7 billion people. Take away 1 billion, and you're left with 6 billion. Subtract those 300,000, and you're left with billions of people stuck in the middle class, lower middle class, upper middle class, but stuck, because they're the people in power, they're the middle class. All these 6 billion are at a standstill. Until this is resolved, nothing will change, because they will not change steps. Let alone move on to the next steps, self-knowledge and spirituality. Self-knowledge. Let's suppose that quantum mechanics is self-knowledge. Look, if everything I have explained so far were truly understood, and the person understood mentally and emotionally, assimilated it and is experiencing it, we would have had to have called the PM, military police, to control it, because there would be a riot here at 3 in the afternoon, because this has already happened. At a human resources meeting here in Sao Paulo, they announced a lecture on employment for Friday at 2 p.m., with no need to register. There will be a lecture that will talk about employment. The auditorium had a capacity of 100 people. An hour before the lecture began, there were already 700 people at the auditorium door. They called the PM to control the people. They said the word, employment, did you notice? We're talking about quantum mechanics, 30 people, right? Maybe if we gave the lecture, employment and quantum mechanics, maybe it could potentially improve. There's a better one, sex and quantum mechanics. Funny, nobody asks about that. There's no demand, everything is a wave, there's no demand. Very rare. Do you think that a product like that will have a huge demand, right? You have to be careful when talking about this subject because it becomes a global trend. No way, no way. What does something like that mean? It's an interesting sociological fact, there are even scientific studies on it. What does it mean? How is there a product that emits a wave that can increase libido, testosterone, estrogen and everything else, and almost nobody asks for it? Do you agree that there's something wrong? Yes, there is. Isn't this proof that the second step is keeping everyone stuck in this? Or don't you believe that a frequency can do this? How can things be kept the way they are, with everyone stuck in this? Stimulates on one side and represses on the other, yin-yang. You can't form a pole. You can't form a field if you don't solve anything. If you solve anything, you'll go to the third step, you'll bother the people who are there, and they don't want that. So, you need to stay on the second step. You can't form a field, you stimulate and repress. Have you noticed that everything is based on this? This social control is based on this, it stimulates and represses. The mere fact that this word is a taboo, a problem, this subject is the taboo of the taboo of the taboo, shows that humanity is unable to deal with this issue in a natural way, it can't. This is very complicated. The subject isn't even touched upon, and when it is, it's spoken in a way that vulgarizes, diminishes, ruins, and gets in the way, because it won't form a field.